is Doug Ballinger. I'm Logan's dad, and I'm really glad you hit play on this today. I know there are a million other things you could be doing, and the fact that you're here with me right now, that means something. If you're listening to this and you feel like no one sees you, if you're struggling and pretending you're fine because no one's really asking, if you've been carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders and wondering how long you can keep pretending you're okay, this episode is for you. Because I know what it feels like to walk through life with a broken heart and a brave face. I know what it feels like to not know who to turn to, or worse, to try and speak up and feel like no one is listening. Let me tell you something right off the bat. If you're hurting, if you're angry, if you're numb or exhausted, you're not broken. You're human. You don't have to be strong all the time, and you don't have to suck it up or snap out of it. You don't have to go through this alone, even if it feels like you already are. I lost my son Logan in 2020. He was 32 years old, smart, funny, loyal, creative, and he was hurting in ways I didn't always understand. He didn't die because he was weak. He died because we live in a world where asking for help is hard and where the drug supply is poisoned and unforgiving. If I could go back and tell Logan one thing, it wouldn't be a lecture. It wouldn't be just say no. It would be this. You deserve to be here, even on your worst day, even when you feel like no one sees you, especially then. So that's what I'm telling you today. You deserve to be here. You deserve help. You deserve to live a life that doesn't just look okay on the outside, but feels okay on the inside. This isn't going to be an episode full of rules or lectures. I'm not here to scare you. I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to talk about what to do when it feels like no one is looking out for you, and how asking for help isn't weakness. It's one of the strongest things you'll ever do. So take a deep breath, get comfortable, and let's talk. Let's be real. Some of you listening right now feel completely alone. Even in a house full of people, you might live with your parents or siblings. And at school, you're in a classroom full of teachers and classmates, but still feel like no one really sees you, not the real you. And I want to start by saying that's not your fault. Sometimes the people who are supposed to protect us don't know how, or they're dealing with their own pain, or they've shut themselves down emotionally and can't offer what they never received. Sometimes they just don't understand what you're going through, or worse, they don't want to understand. You might have tried to open up once and got shut down. Maybe someone told you to get over it or be grateful when all you wanted to do was be heard. Maybe you got labeled as dramatic or lazy when really you were anxious, depressed, and hurting. Maybe you were even punished or ignored for speaking the truth about what you were feeling. And after that, you just stopped talking. You just stopped trusting. And you started hiding. Listen, I get it. When you feel like no one is looking out for you, it's easy to start thinking, why even try? Why even care? And when that thought takes root, it gets dangerous. Because you might start believing you don't matter. You might start thinking nobody would even notice if you weren't here. But let me tell you something, and I mean this from the deepest part of my heart. Just because people failed you doesn't mean you don't matter. Just because some adults don't know how to handle your pain doesn't mean you're too much. It means they've got their own healing to do. You deserve to be seen. You deserve to be heard. And you deserve love that doesn't come with conditions. I wish Logan had believed that. There were times in his life where he felt misunderstood, when he was trying to manage emotions he didn't have language for. Times when the pressure to appear okay was louder than the invitation to ask for help. He learned to mask it. He became really good at telling everyone what they wanted to hear. We all thought we had a clear picture, but he was splitting his truths between different people just to keep the peace. If you're doing that now, tell one person one thing and another person something else just to avoid conflict or keep people off your back. I see you. And I want you to know that you don't have to keep doing that forever. You may not feel safe now. You may not know who you can trust right now. But it won't always be like that. You're allowed to keep trying. You're allowed to keep looking for safe people. And you're allowed to outgrow the spaces that taught you to hide. You don't have to wait for crisis to start talking. You don't have to reach your breaking point to ask for help. And if you feel like no one's ever looked out for you, I want you to hear this loud and clear. I'm looking out for you now. This whole episode, this podcast, is me saying, you matter. You're not invisible here. Because I know everything we've talked about so far might feel kind of heavy, but I want to turn the page for a minute and talk about something you may not have heard in a while, or maybe even ever. You can build a life that's bigger than your pain. Now, I'm not saying that pain disappears. I'm not promising that everything will get better overnight, but I'm telling you this. The pain you're feeling right now doesn't have to be the end of your story. It can be a chapter. It can just be part of your backstory. The hard part that makes your strength even more powerful when you look back on it later. I know this because I've lived it. There was a time when I couldn't imagine making it through another day without my son. Losing Logan brought me to my knees. It shattered me in ways I still can't put into words. But somewhere along the way, through grief, through tears, through the darkest nights, I realized something. The pain didn't have to define me. It would always be part of me, but it didn't have to be the whole story. That realization changed everything. I started doing one small thing at a time. I showed up when I didn't want to. I talked to people who knew what grief felt like. I started writing, speaking, advocating. And eventually, I created Logan's voice. Not because I had healed, but because I needed to heal and I wanted his story to mean something. That's how you start building a life that's bigger than your pain. You don't erase what happened. You don't ignore it. You build around it. You create new meaning, new purpose, new light. And that light doesn't cancel out the darkness, but it pushes back against it. And you don't have to wait until you have it all together to start. You can build that life right now, one tiny step at a time. Waking up and choosing to try again today. Writing down your feelings instead of stuffing them deep down inside. Saying no to something that doesn't serve you. Saying yes to a dream you've been too scared to admit you have. Telling your story, even if your voice shakes. You're allowed to have big dreams, even if you come from broken places. You're allowed to feel joy again, even if you're grieving. You're allowed to hope for more, even if no one ever taught you how. There's no expiration date on healing, no timeline for becoming who you're meant to be. And even if your life feels like chaos right now, even if you've made mistakes, even if you've been through hell, you can still build something beautiful. You can still become someone you're proud of. You don't need permission from anyone but yourself. And if no one's ever told you this before, let me be the first. I believe in your future. I believe in your resilience, and I believe the best parts of your story haven't even happened yet. Before we wrap up today, I want to talk directly to every high school student and young person out there who's been feeling like life is just too much lately. Maybe your home life is chaos. Maybe you're constantly stressed about school or relationships or trying to keep it all together. Maybe you feel like no one really gets you, like you're screaming into a room where no one is listening. And maybe, just maybe, you're tired of pretending you're okay when you're not. If that's where you are right now, I want you to hear this. You are not alone. You are not crazy. And this world is hard sometimes. Trying to grow up, figure out who you are, deal with the pressure, pain, and people who don't understand you, that's a lot. It's not teen drama. It's real. And it messes with your head and your heart. But here's something I wish someone had told me, and something I wish my son Logan had believed. You don't have to have it all figured out right now. You just have to keep going. You don't have to be the perfect student. You don't have to fake being happy 24/7. And you don't even have to know what your future looks like. You just have to make it through today. That's it. And if today sucks, that doesn't mean tomorrow will. If this week is hard, that doesn't mean you're failing. If people around you don't show up the way they should, you can still choose to show up for yourself. So here's your anchor. 5 simple words I want you to hold on to when all feels like too much. This is not the end. Say it again if you need to. This is not the end. Not of your story, not of your worth, not of your shot at building a life that actually feels good to live in. You're stronger than the crap life throws at you. And if no one has told you lately, I'm proud of you for surviving what you've already survived. I see you, and I'm rooting for you. Stay here, keep going. The world needs you, even if it doesn't know it yet. Let's talk about something a lot of people get wrong, especially young people, and especially guys. That's that this idea of asking for help makes you weak. That is a lie, and it's a dangerous one. Somewhere along the way, maybe you were taught that strength means keeping everything bottled up, that crying is weakness, that needing support makes you broken or soft or dramatic. And I want to challenge that right now, because let me tell you what real strength looks like. Real strength is sitting in your pain and still choosing to reach for someone's hand. Real strength is saying, I don't know what to do, but I don't want to do it alone. Real strength is asking for help before you reach the edge or even when you're standing right in it. It doesn't take strength to suffer in silence. That's just survival. But it takes courage to speak up, to trust someone enough to say, I'm not okay. And I'm not telling you this from some motivational poster. I'm telling you this from my own experience. Because I've been the one who held it all in. And I've also been the one who finally broke down and said, I just can't do this on my own anymore. And you know what? That moment didn't make me weaker. It made me real. After Logan died, I went into one of the darkest seasons of my life. Grief nearly swallowed me whole. I didn't want to get out of bed. I couldn't work. I felt like a piece of me had died too. And in a lot of ways it had. But eventually, I started showing up to grief groups, to counseling. I talked to friends. I met people who had lost someone they loved. And I began to see that the act of reaching out, of letting someone into the mess, is what pulled me back from the edge. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, that sounds great, but I don't have anyone to trust like that. And if that's you, I hear you. Sometimes the help we need doesn't come from the people we expect. Sometimes it's not a parent, a teacher, or a best friend. Sometimes it's a coach, a counselor, a support group, or even someone you follow online who reminds you that you are not alone. There are safe people out there. You might have to go looking, and I know that's hard, but you are worth the effort it takes to find them. You're not a burden. You're not broken. You're just hurting, and that's human. If Logan had felt more freedom to ask for help without shame, without fear of being misunderstood, maybe things would have turned out differently. That's something I'll never stop wondering about. And it's why I'll never stop saying this to you. You are not weak for needing help. You are wise enough to show you need it. You are strong enough to ask. You're still here, and that tells me you've got more fight in you than you know. So if there's a part of you that's been thinking about reaching out, just do it. Send the message, make the call, Walk into that counselor's office, knock on that door, and say the words. Even if your voice shakes, that's not weakness. That's the beginning of healing. I just want to say thank you. Not just for listening, but for staying, for showing up today, for being willing to hear things that maybe no one has said to you before. This world can be loud, harsh, and unfair. Sometimes it feels like no one sees you unless you're perfect or falling apart. But here's the truth. You are already enough right now, just as you are. Not for what you've done or haven't done, not for how strong you've been or how much you've held in. You're enough because you're human, because you're here. And that matters more than you know. There's a reason I do this podcast. There's a reason I tell Logan's story and keep speaking up, even when it hurts. Because I believe that someone listening, maybe you, needs to hear these words before it's too late. Logan didn't get a second chance, but you still have yours. You don't have to prove anything to be worthy of love or support. You don't have to pretend you're fine when you're falling apart inside. And you don't have to go through this life alone. There are safe people out there. There are real resources. There are voices like mine who won't stop reminding you that your life matters. So as we close, I want you to carry this with you. You are not invisible. You are not a burden. You are not beyond help. You are not weak for feeling what you feel. And you're absolutely 100% not alone. Take a deep breath. Put one foot in front of the other. Reach out, even if it's scary. And when it feels like no one is looking out for you, remember this moment, this space, this voice that's saying you matter, you're loved, and you deserve to be here. Thanks for spending this time with me. If this episode spoke to you, share it with someone who might need it too. And if you need help or just a reminder that you're not alone, visit logansvoice.com. We're building something here, and there's room for you. Until next time, take care of yourself. Seriously, you're worth it. I am Logan's voice. I am Logan's dad, and I will not be silent.